Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this special June 10th meeting of the City of Summit Zoning Board. I'm Joe Steiner, and I'm Chair of the Zoning Board of Adjustment. Please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. In accordance with New Jersey Statute 10:4-10, adequate notice of this meeting has been provided to a newspaper of record and has been posted here at City Hall. This meeting is a judicial proceeding. Any questions or comments must be limited to the issues that are relevant to what the board may legally consider in reaching a decision, and decorum appropriate to a judicial hearing must be maintained at all times. For the benefit of the interested public, this meeting is being live streamed to the city's YouTube page and is also being broadcast on Summit's governmental channel, which is Comcast Channel 34 and Verizon Channel 30. Two transcripts of this meeting are being taken, one using the video and audio, so we need all speakers to utilize one of the microphones in the room. In addition, there is also a transcript being taken by a representative for the applicant. But that means that you all have to use the microphones in the room. You can't talk from your seat, although we may be able to hear you. They won't be able to pick you up on the microphones. Please note that the fire exits are on my right, your left, and at the back of the room where you entered. The city does have an assisted listening system to help the hearing impaired. If anyone needs hearing assistance, please obtain the system at the dais and return it thereafter. Madam Secretary, would you please call the roll of the members?
Sure. Chairman Steiner?
Here.
Vice Chairman Loikis?
Here.
Mr. Yuko is excused. Mr. Nelson?
Here.
Ms. Zahn?
Here.
Mr. Curran is excused. Mr. Malay is excused. Ms. Toth?
Here.
Ms. Chifo is excused. Mr. Feskins?
Here.
Mr. Chanchuli?
Here.
You have a quorum. You may proceed.
Thank you. The gentleman to my right is not Andy Ball. His name is and Andy is the board's attorney, but tonight filling in for him is Dennis Galvin, who preceded Andy as our attorney. And the attorney advises the board members on matters of law, and he is the key interface with the applicant's attorneys. Mr. Galvin will not vote on the applications. The ball kept trying to come out. Anyway, Stephanie Sulios is a city employee and is the zoning board secretary. She works with applicants on preparing their applications, planning our agendas, and keeping our meeting minutes. She also does not vote on the applications. Also present is Marie Raffi from Collins Engineering, our board engineering firm. She's seated over at the table to our right, your left. Also seated at the table is a representative from Burgess Associates, our board planner, and that's Tom Behrens. They provide input to the board and also do not vote on the applications. Our board consists of 7 regular members and up to 4 alternates. All members can participate in the hearings tonight, but a maximum of 7 can vote. Most applications require a simple majority to be approved, and normally before we enter executive session to vote on an application, you'll be advised how many votes, but as we're only handling 1 tonight, I believe the supermajority is in order. We have only 1 case this evening, which will begin with the applicant's attorney giving an overview of the application process to date. We then hear from any additional expert witnesses that they may have to help explain the application and why the variances are needed. The board members may ask questions of the applicant, their attorney, and the expert witnesses. Once the board members and the board professionals have completed their questioning, the public will have an opportunity to ask questions. This is not the time to tell us what you think about the case. That will come a little bit later. Before you ask your question, please clearly state your name, spell your last name, and provide your address. And again, please do that at one of the microphones. That's important so that our court reporter is able to keep a clear and accurate public record. After all witnesses have been heard, members of the audience have their second opportunity to speak, and at that time, you will be sworn in and you can express your opinion, positive or negative, about the application. Then the hearing is closed and we enter into executive session where the board members discuss the case and vote. We remind all applicants again that they must carefully read the resolution that documents the zoning board's decision and pay particular attention to the conditions contained in the resolution. And because they're represented by counsel, we know that they're aware of that and there won't be any issues there. So at this point, I would turn it over to the attorney representing Kent Place School.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, board members, board professionals. Peter Wolfson of Dave Pitney here on behalf of the applicant. May I be seated?
Please.
Thank you. I know that not all of you were here for the original application, so I'll take just a couple of minutes to provide some background. So as was stated in the beginning, the applicant is Kent Place School. They have property at 42 and 6975 Norwood Avenue, designated as Block 1901, Lot 1, and Block 1201, Lot 1 on the official tax map of the City of Summit, and the property is located in the R15 Residential Zoning District. The property hosts the Kent Place School, a private educational institution that is a permitted conditional use in the R15 zone. On November 20, 2023, the applicant received preliminary and final site plan approval with variance relief from this board to construct a new building addition in place of a portion of its existing art center and field house located on the property. The approval permits demolition of an approximately 12,492 square foot portion of the existing art center and construction of an approximately 36,648 square foot addition at ground level with an approximately 2,514 square foot second floor cantilevered dance studio area. These improvements are to help modernize and expand the arts and athletic facilities. All improvements are facing the interior of the site. We're here this evening seeking a few tweaks to the project that was approved. Although preliminary testing had been performed prior to the initial application and approval, as the project got closer to construction, the applicant performed some additional geotechnical testing on the property. That testing revealed a lower bedrock location and higher water table than was originally anticipated. Those conditions do not allow for a basement level, resulting in a reconfiguration of the interior space of the building. The modified building that's before you this evening is actually slightly smaller than the approved building and is lower in height in some areas. As you will hear from our consultants, this is due to the lowering of the dance studio from the second floor down to the ground level. That change is really the only material exterior architectural change being proposed. We're not increasing the extent of any variance relief obtained under the initial approval, and in fact are improving upon a few of the variances. This application before you tonight was deemed complete pursuant to correspondence dated April 15, 2024. The school continues to be sensitive to any impacts on the surrounding neighborhood, and to that end, the school held an informal meeting on June 5 with some of the surrounding neighbors to discuss the proposed tweaks and answer any questions. The school is not seeking a modification of any of the operational conditions that were attached to the original approval. For the record, I'd just like to acknowledge receipt of the following review letters in conjunction with this application. Consulting Zoning Officer Review dated May 17, your Board Engineers Review Memorandum dated May 31, your Board Planners Review Memorandum also dated May 31, your Construction Official Review dated May 16, your City Forester Review dated May 24, your Board of Health review dated May 20, your Historic Preservation Commission review dated May 28, your Environmental Commission review dated May 28, your Police Chief review undated, and your Fire Chief review dated May 30. In terms of outside agency approvals, we have received approval for this revised plan before you from both the Union County Planning Board by their letter dated April 23, and from the Somerset Union Soil Conservation District pursuant to their approval letter dated April 17. Tonight, we're going to present two witnesses to you. One is Rob Walsh, who those of you who sat on the original application will recognize as the project engineer. He'll provide a brief overview of existing site conditions, as well as discussing the modifications to the site from an engineering perspective. We'll also call Peter Bachman, our project architect, who will discuss the modifications to the floor plans and the elevations. We have with us tonight Paul Phillips, a professional planner. If the board would like to hear planning testimony, in light of the fact that none of our variances are being exacerbated, and in fact, some are being lessened, we leave it to you as to whether you want that. If there are no questions of me, I'd like to call Rob Walsh as my first witness.
Questions for the attorney?
The meeting June 5th, that was this year?
Yes.
Was that prior to the original?
We had a meeting prior to the original. This one was prior to just a few days ago. Yep.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Wolfson,
Yes.
just one question. When you said that Somerset Union Soil Conservation, both of those references, that's on the revised set that we have here?
Yes,
Thank you.
they were.
Any other questions for the attorney? Any questions on this side? We should move you over here. Any questions from our professionals for the attorney? No. Okay, seeing none, why don't we move on to your next witness and swear him in?
State your full name for the record, spell your last name.
Robert E. Walsh, W-A-L-S-H,
All right.
excuse me, that was the old address. 8 Ridgedale Ave, Cedar Knolls, New Jersey, EI Associates.
And what kind of professional are you?
Professional engineer, civil
All right,
engineer,
then,
professional planner.
Mr. Chairman, do we accept his credentials as having appeared before the board previously?
We normally swear him in first.
All right. You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
All right.
Any questions for the board on his credentials?
Still in good
Okay.
standing?
Mr. Attorney, he's all yours.
Rob, could you provide a brief overview of existing conditions and surrounding conditions before you go into any changes?
Sure. Simone, could you put up the aerial images?
And for the record, let's describe what we're looking at.
Sure. This is an overview aerial images contained in the amended project description that was submitted in March.
Okay, before you go into that, is this new? We've not seen this in the packages we have.
You want to name it as an exhibit, but it is an excerpt from the,
Not from the prior one, but from this one.
from this current one, yes.
It's an excerpt of it.
It's an excerpt from the project description document that was submitted with the application.
Okay, has everybody seen
I think
it?
it's image A, maybe on this, like, second page or something.
Okay, then we
Okay.
don't have to, is there anything in what you're going to be presenting that's new?
The next exhibit we're going to show you that was on the screen prior to this one is a comparison exhibit of drawing number C1.5, what was approved last year, and then the second page will be what's
So
before you
that's
today.
new. So why don't we just, can you send the entire package to Stephanie so she has it and we'll call it all A1? Does that make sense for you?
Sure.
Okay, that way we'll have all the documents new for today.
Again, so what's on the screen now is an overall campus aerial view. North is to the left, and it consists of the main campus, which is an 18.2 acre site with the 2 athletic fields, they're synthetic turf athletic fields to the right, which is at the southern portion of the property. And then the 5.9 acre northern campus, which has those tennis courts, parking lot, and a residential building or two. Norwood Avenue separates the two properties that runs from Morris Avenue southward to Kent Place Boulevard.
And Rob, there's no development proposed on the portion of Kent Place to the north?
That is correct. All of the development proposed, approved previously and as part of this project will occur on the main campus. So if you can go to the next image, and this is an aerial image, now north is running up the page. Norwood Avenue is on the right-hand, well, wait a second. We're doing some rotation. Okay, that's better. North is now still to the left. So the mustard colored brown building, that's the building addition. And you can see that it will be attached to the field house with the gable roofs and the dormers that Simone is pointing out. That's the building addition. We're also reconstructing the entrance driveway that currently runs between the proposed addition and the building to the north or to the left. That's being reconstructed to be functionally kind of the same driveway. However, 6 additional parking stalls will be gained on the site by installing them in the island that separates the ingress driveway from the egress driveway. So that's basically the limits of the project, essentially that driveway, the building addition, and the surrounding sidewalks. Again, the athletic fields are to the right. The property generally slopes from that upper right athletic field, which is the southernmost athletic field, down to the lower left, which is the intersection of Norwood Ave and Morris Avenue. And that's it, and I think, go ahead.
There's no changes proposed in tonight's application as to the driveway and parking improvements from that which was approved, correct?
Correct, unchanged.
Just for clarity, what you're proposing, what you're showing here, this is the new layout, or is this the original?
I'm sorry, it's difficult to hear you, if you would.
Sorry, is this the proposed new layout, or is this the original?
This is
previously
the new
approved?
layout overlaid on an aerial image. And again, this was taken from the new project description document that was submitted with this amended application.
But with this new layout, that parking configuration does not change, correct?
Correct. So, what I'd like to do is, you know what, Simone, can we go to the next exhibit, which is the comparison document? And if it helps, do you think we should give out, the thing is, what I've done is taken the before and after and put some large red text on it, but from having prepared it, I can't see the red text very well, but we do have 11 by 17 copies. I think they're better to look at if the board, is that okay?
Yes,
Steve?
please.
Thank you.
Thank you. You can have it anywhere you want. There you go. And should we mark this as,
No, it's already in the package, I think.
is this in the package?
No, it is not.
So then we need to mark
This
it.
is a markup of old and new, so I would suggest,
What number are we up to?
2, A2.
good,
I think we should mark this A2.
good choice.
Unless they're not dead.
Okay, so this, what's up on the screen now is the first sheet you see before you, which I've got identified in the lower right-hand corner above the title block in bold text, approved site plan. That was what was previously approved last year, And in the red boxes with leader lines, I'm pointing out various features on the site, which are basically the essence of the change. And I'll go around and indicate those, and then I'll follow up with some of the other features that are labeled, but they're part of the basic drawing. So number one, I guess I want to start with the basement level. Within the footprint of the mustard-colored shaded building addition, there's a dark line, and we've indicated with the text to the right, outline of basement level. You can see the basement level was probably 1/3 of the overall footprint, was in the center of the building, and that's what's being eliminated. So that, when you see the next plan, you'll see that that line is not shown. There is no basement. Secondly, if you go to the Norwood Ave side where the two entrances are, I have a box there that says stairs and ADA ramp to East Plaza. The East Plaza is that notched area of the building addition where we're going down to meet the level of the existing gymnasium. Previously, this plan, it had a basement level, and then above that, it had a level that was 5 feet below the existing field house. The field house gymnasium, which is abutting the proposed addition, had an entrance that's identified, and can you point to that, Simone? It kind of up there at the end of the ADA ramp. We've called it in the plan east egress doors. Those doors were at the same elevation of the gymnasium. And then if you go to the other side, the south entrance, or an area where we had the dance studio was on the second floor, and the sidewalk went underneath the dance studio overhang, those entrances were at the same elevation of the gymnasium. So everything to the left of that, and I mean, there was just a corridor that connected that. So everything to the left of that was 5 feet lower. So that Eastern Plaza area, we needed a set of stairs and a ramp to get down to that level, and then get back up to the gym level, which was 5 feet higher. So we had a retaining wall there, an ADA ramp, a set of stairs. We had a rain garden in that area. And we also, in the front of the building, near the main entrance, facing the new reconfigured driveway, we had a rain garden there. Some of the other features, and I'll come back to the lowering of the building overhang. We needed, because the gym, when we removed the existing building and they're just left with the field house gyms, there were no restrooms. So for a temporary measure, we provided a temporary restroom trailer. That is still going to be part of this application. However, the ramp, that's the temporary ramp to the field house that was just below that, that's being eliminated. We had, because the field house level, that side of the building, the grade is much higher, so we were constructing a retaining wall with fencing to go down there, lighting, et cetera, to get to the ground floor level. That's been eliminated. We have an at-grade sidewalk that goes to a temporary door, and within the gymnasium, we have a temporary ramp that will ultimately be removed. So that feature goes away. And then lastly, the lightly shaded portion of the building on the athletic field side, the south side of the building addition, you can see an area where we've identified as a second floor dance studio building overhang. In that case, the building was the second floor, and to get into the building from ground level, the sidewalk went under that area, and that's how you got in the building. So those are the features. Oh, and by the way, the one other temporary feature on the right-hand side, well, closest to Norwood Ave, there's a temporary parking area that'll be placed during construction. It'll be used for student parking, and then it'll be removed at the end of the project. A temporary office trailer was shown as indicated where Simone's pointing on the drawing on the right-hand side. That feature is being removed. There were offices that were in the existing building where people would be displaced from their workspace, and that was approved on the prior plan, and now it's no longer needed.
No, I think if we show the next exhibit,
Next,
it
yeah.
will confirm.
Right. Oh, and by the way, the green area on the roof, that was the green roof area that was used in the calculation for a reduction in building coverage That's still part of the building, as is the rain garden areas, but they've just been reconfigured. Go ahead.
And the reason that it was deducted from the building coverage is because you get a credit under the ordinance for having that, correct?
Right, a green building feature, design feature, which it's per ordinance that you get that credit.
Okay.
And now,
This is the second.
the second page of what you have in front of you is now identified in the lower right as the proposed site plan, which is the proposed site plan you have in your packet of drawings, as well as what's on the screen above. And the first thing I want to point out, you can now see where we've indicated a dash line going through the building, which now separates the the higher floor elevation of the existing field house to remain, will match the building addition immediately adjacent to it, will match that elevation, which is 5 feet higher than what was previously approved. And you could see the line where we've indicated a dashed line through the building, the change in first floor elevation. So, and that change is that 5-foot differential I had mentioned. And again, if you look to the top of the sheet, or which would be the East Plaza area, we no longer need the steps. It's a ADA compliant ramp, 12-foot wide, that goes down to, I shouldn't say a ramp because technically it's not a ramp, it's a sidewalk that's ADA compliant. Goes down to the level that's equivalent to the gym, and then it's basically at that whole level, East Plaza, as well as the area behind the addition, or on the Norwood Ave side of the addition, is basically a walkway with a retaining wall to the east side, leads you to the gym, Fieldhouse gym to remain.
Sorry, that proposed sidewalk to the at-grade sidewalk to the field house, is that existing?
Is the proposed at-grade sidewalk to field house, is that an existing condition today?
No, it is not.
So that's no.
That area immediately north, if you would just imagine if the building addition portion is gone, the area immediately north of the existing gym, or to the left of it, that's open lawn area in its current condition. So we have the raising of the floor to match the gym, the elimination of the basement, and then the reduction of site features such as stairs and ramps due to, and it's actually a savings in cost, less excavation due to that adjustment. The rain garden, which previously was not in the greatest of locations, I must say. We were asked to have green technology. We were in the midst of a nearly finished site plan, and we added them in an area that was convenient, but probably not the best for growth and sunlight and so forth. So we've increased the size of it, and we now have a rain garden on the athletic field side, south side of the building addition, slightly larger in square footage and in one location. And then adjacent to that, we've brought the second floor dance studio down to the ground floor level. And in order to in doing that, we needed to route the pedestrian sidewalk around the south side of the building into those new building entrances, which are at the same level of the existing field house. This resulted in about 800 square feet of additional impervious area net. And when we ran the calculations, and it was no impact to the stormwater management system that had enough room to handle the additional runoff and control it.
And as to lot coverage and building coverage, we were compliant with the ordinance, and we are still compliant.
That is correct. And you can see it's not as dark of a green color, but we now have the green roof areas in two different locations, one atop the studio, dance studio, and another one on the north side of the building above a one-story addition or entranceway, which is labeled the west entrance into the building.
And just to put a fine point on these green features, the total rain garden area has been increased from 673 square feet to 763 square feet, correct?
Correct.
And the green roof has been increased from 1628 square feet to 1799 square feet.
Correct.
Thank you.
As mentioned in the prior exhibit, The entrance, temporary entrance to the field house, existing field house building will remain, however, we no longer have that 7-foot deep canyon of a depressed walkway with retaining walls on either side. It's at grade, it's ADA compliant, it gets you, students from the gym door, exterior door, up to the temporary restrooms, which will still remain as was in the prior project. And then finally, you can see I've indicated the area on the right-hand side, upper right-hand corner, where we no longer have the temporary office building.
Can we talk about the variances that have actually gotten better?
Sure.
Okay, so floor area ratio, the maximum in the ordinance is 25%, and we were granted a variance to allow 25.26, so just
That is correct.
2,600. We're now only proposing 25.11, correct?
Right, a reduction of 0.15%.
Right. And we had gotten a variance for combined fence and retaining wall up to 13.5 feet, which was approved, correct?
Correct.
And now what is that height proposed?
It's 11.25 feet, a reduction of 2.25. And where that was occurring for reference is that Eastern Plaza area, the retaining wall on the Norwood Ave side of the building addition.
And finally, we had received a variance for steep slope disturbance for up to 5,167 square feet. We now need less disturbance, and that's 4,843, is that correct?
Correct, a reduction of 324 square feet, mainly due by taking away that temporary office, which was in an area of steep slopes.
And I heard you say that there's really no material change in the stormwater
No.
system or configuration?
No, it remains the same.
And no changes proposed as to lighting?
No changes in lighting.
There was one question in one of the review memos as to whether the new light by the temporary entranceway would be shielded.
That will be shielded in accordance with the notes that were provided in the previous approval, and that light was part of the prior approval, although at this point, it was down in a hole because it was at that depressed location. Now it's at grade, and it'll be approximately 8 feet above grade, and it will be shielded from the adjoining properties.
And you heard me go through that robust list of review memos that we received in conjunction with this submission?
Yes, I've reviewed them, and I have responses for all the comments.
And you can comply with all the...
Yes,
comments
absolutely.
other than you testified to, right?
Yes.
Okay. Do you have anything else?
That's it. Oh, the building height, I just want to say, we calculated, there's a building height drawing, I forget what drawing number it is, but that requires that we calculate the mean grade around the building. By virtue of bringing the second floor dance studio down to the grade, the perimeter of the proposed outline changed at a different route. So when you run the average numbers and crunch it out, the actual building height for the proposed went down by 0.05 of a foot. But the building structure in what it was proposed really isn't changing.
No other questions? Thank you.
From our professionals, questions? Marie, you're up first.
Well, I think they mentioned most of the stuff that was in my letter. You know, maybe I'll just reiterate some of the things that we would want. The stormwater management did not seem to change based on the changes that were made to the site. I think they testified to that, and we would agree with that. We're gonna want an operations and maintenance manual for this system, which I think would probably,
That was submitted on, beginning of last month to demonstrate compliance with the prior resolution.
perfect. Could you talk again about those walls and how tall those walls were? Just wondering.
Oh, we are at 11 1/4 and subtract 3.5 foot for the railing height.
Okay,
Whatever the math works out on that, I don't have my
okay.
calculator.
All right, so we'll have some
We're lower the-
calculations on that.
Right, so
Right.
we have the sections and stuff that are shown on this plan. We have another plan that'll be submitted for building permits. We've done all the structural calculations. I think one of the footings is a lot narrower than what we exaggerated on the drawing, but we have the wall drains for that will connect to the new drainage system. And we do have structural calculations signed and sealed for that.
All right, good. And there was no changes really to any of the circulation that was in the drive aisle. So I don't think there was anything else that we had to talk, you're not doing any changes with garbage trucks and school vehicles
No.
from the last application? And you're not modifying any of the locations of the mechanical equipment or
No.
air conditioning, so I think that's all I had.
Tom?
Sure. Thank you. Just a few minor questions. You answered most of the ones that I had. So the location of the security booth, on the exhibit you just handed out, is that the proposed location?
Yes.
I thought there was a discrepancy maybe on some.
No, I think I reviewed both the prior approval as well as this set of drawings, and the existing booth is
Same.
labeled, and we've indicated, on all the sheets, where the proposed one, it's gonna move slightly, because we're realigning the sidewalk to match the ADA curb on the north side of the new driveway configuration. We're coming across with that same thing, so we're bumping the security booth just to the east of that new walkway.
But it'll be located in consistent with the.
Virtually the same location.
Consistent with the exhibit tonight.
Oh, absolutely, yes.
I think the question, or the discrepancy I may have seen was between the engineering and the architectural plans. So the comment, just make sure they're consistent. Maybe
Okay.
they are, maybe they're not. I don't know. But, thank you. Starting through my comments. Can you just confirm the new building height? I know you mentioned that it's a very slight change. Just, you have the numerical.
Yeah, the numerical values, I do not have that drawing sheet in front of me, but I do have what the approved building height was 43.62, and currently, the proposed building height will be 43.57, as I mentioned before, a reduction of 0.05 feet.
The resolution has a different figure, so there were different numbers in different places, so that's just why I wanted to.
Right, now I saw your report, which in the table agreed with what we've calculated and we've shown, but in the written comment, there seemed to be a
Right.
difference.
We're talking about inches or a fraction of an inch at this point. So just wanted to be clear for the purposes of the record. And then finally, have you provided details for the green roof area? Is that it?
Yeah, the green roof area that was, I'm not sure whether it was on the March 1st middle, which you have before you right now. But when we did the plans for compliance, we updated the cross-section to agree with the town's cross-section, which was our one that we took from another job. It had all the layers almost exactly conditioned, but it didn't have that, which the town may not have it, but I know the DEP has the leak detection layer. So, but all of it is consistent with that, and of course, that's to demonstrate compliance with the ordinance. The actual structural building stuff must be consistent with that or much better. There's other details that go with that, such as railings and whatnot.
Understood, thank you. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
I'm a bit confused. We have two applications here. We have the one that we approved last year, and we have this one. And every once in a while, you're saying, well, it's over here in the old one. Somehow that all has to be brought over, I believe, into this one. And I'm not sure that I'm hearing that that's happening. You're referring to it, to certain items that are in the other document, and you're saying, yeah, well, we'll be doing that. Doesn't it have to be in these documents?
If I might, I think what I heard a couple of times, and I understand the confusion, is that we, subsequent to the original approval, we submitted a set of compliance drawings to comply with the original design, and some of those features have not changed. So I think that was the reference.
But I think they have to be included into this set of documents.
Right, and we will be submitting a complete compliance plan if we're able to be approved tonight, which will incorporate everything that you've heard.
I go to the experts. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. That's why I have experts. Any other, okay,
I
questions from the
just-
board?
Yeah, just the one question I have, I mean, everything you've described tonight is a slight shrinkage, if you will, with the exception then of an increase in the impervious coverage by lowering the dance studio?
That's correct, yes.
Okay, so maybe this is the question for Galvin, so, Mr. Galvin, so that's what we're focused on?
Well, the fact that they're changing the plan,
Yeah.
you're trying to test out whether or not you think the changes to the plan are sensible. To the extent, so you're seeking a variance for an increase in impervious coverage?
No, we did not need a variance for lot coverage or building
Okay.
coverage before, and we don't need one.
Okay,
Well,
okay,
that's
thank
good
you for
news.
that reminder, because I had thought when I was reading the materials that there was no additional variances required. Thank
No,
you.
That's good.
That's
We-
true.
We
Yes.
should,
There are no additional variances
it's
required.
the only thing that increased, but even though it increased, it doesn't trigger a variance.
Thank
If
you.
it did, we'd want to know more about how
Right.
they were
So,
meeting the stormwater impact.
yeah, so everything is smaller, basically. Right, okay.
I have a question about, and I'm not sure where this is going to fall, but typically it would be under engineering, traffic. So, and this goes, I realize that this has been previously approved, but this is a new look at this, right, for all new approval, so we can't actually rely on the prior approval. And I wasn't here for the last approval, so I have to ask questions that maybe,
Could we get that clarified?
yeah.
We're
it's a whole-
bound by our prior approval, aren't we?
No,
No,
the way
it's
to
a whole
understand
new-
this tonight is, the applicant has an approval. If you said no tonight, they still have an approval. What we're gonna do is, if I'm understanding this correctly, they think they are presenting us a better alternative than we already approved. But they do need us to ratify it. And if we ratify it, they'll give up the prior approval. We're not gonna leave them with both opportunities. So, and why would I know you're at a disadvantage because you weren't at the last application, but the proofs wouldn't necessarily, they're not changing in a substantial way.
I think I still want to ask my question, which, because it's
Well, no,
in
you
the,
asked me,
yeah,
you
yeah.
asked me for input. I
No,
gave you
yeah,
input. Go
yeah.
ahead, ask your question. I wouldn't
It was,
you.
no, it's based on the memorandum from Burgess dated May 31st, so it's relevant to the new application.
Sure.
and I-
I said coming in tonight.
Yeah, yeah.
Coming in tonight, I know that several of you did not hear the first case. And I did this for 30 years, and I know it makes it hard for you, because you're right, we don't want to redo the whole case right now. We could, but I don't see,
Well-
I don't see.
If I may, we did send out to all the members, the transcripts and the videos.
Correct.
So they had an opportunity
Yeah.
to hear it.
I got it. That makes it even better. So, but anyway, let's ask
Well, my
your
question is based on a letter from May 31st, so I'm not going back to the last.
Yeah.
You're fine,
Yeah,
ask the
okay.
question.
There's a question about the third-party use, and I'd like to know about that. I didn't hear any way of addressing that. Third-party use of the site will be limited to 6 to 9 on weekdays, 1 to 9 on Saturdays, and 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. on Sundays. And Burgess says, again, we question if third-party utilization could be somewhat limited at least one day of the week on Sunday, for instance. And this stands out to me as somebody whose children did use this school in earlier times as third-party use, basketball practice and stuff. This is a phenomenal facility that you're building, right? With like so many more uses, the theater, all of this, you have a lot more seats, you have a lot more possibility, I'd say, for third-party use. So I think that question that was raised here, it's like, I'd like to hear an answer to that also, because it is going to increase traffic on the weekends for third-party use potentially. So I kind of want to know what the thoughts are on that.
Yeah, if I might. So we had a robust discussion regarding those topics, and there were many members of the public here that expressed concerns about traffic. We met with them a second time, and we came back to the board with these proposed operational conditions were things that we proposed to address the concerns that we heard. Nothing about this amended site plan will in any way change the traffic in terms of number of cars, in terms of peak hours, from that which was proposed at the time of the original approval.
Right, I guess what Burgess is saying in this, Associates, it was this particular, for this particular approval, this was their comment. So I just wanted to hear like.
Maybe I can
Yeah.
elaborate, and
Yeah.
maybe my wording was poor, but I think where we left off with, at the last approval, was that there was gonna be some coordination with neighbors to alleviate some of their concerns, which included parking for special events, because people tended to park in the surrounding neighborhood and not on site. So I think there was an indication that there was some communication with the neighbors. Obviously, the room's not packed as it was. Maybe there are a few interested neighbors. I don't want to rule everyone out, but in any event, there was a concern. I don't know if there's still a concern, but maybe you could just help us understand what happened through that communication, or what the school is planning to do to help the neighbors in this case.
Yeah, I think it's captured in the conditions that are found on the original approval. Appoint a neighborhood liaison and hold a neighbor community meeting at least annually. Provide appropriate staffing by the school's internal security team to manage traffic and parking, to request assistance from Summit Police during major events, as they do now already, and to place neighborhood signage where and when appropriate to encourage a limit on street parking by attendees. And I would also note that the police chief's review of the application, tonight's application, had no objections. So the school, as we discussed, again, you're at a disadvantage, has a very robust, I'll use that word again, relationship with the police. They actively work together to try to minimize any impacts, including traffic. So those are some of the things that are taking place, in addition to the neighborhood meeting that we just had prior to this, but we will regularly have neighborhood meetings and share information.
May I ask, we're a number of months since the adoption of the prior resolution. Has the liaison been appointed? She's here, okay.
She's here.
So I still believe that perhaps we should include condition number 10 from the original resolution, which is the one you just read,
My
that it come in.
proposal would be all the conditions from the prior resolution will go in this one, and the resolution that says that this that if they're going to use this resolution, the prior resolution, they'll abandon it, once they activate this
Okay.
one.
Yes, we were expecting, and we're happy to live with those conditions
Okay.
that the board worked through and placed on us.
Any other questions from the board?
Yes, I have one, or maybe two. The retaining wall is on the east end of the building. So that sidewalk, you said was grade level to the building, but it's recessed below that retaining wall. If I read correctly, it's not visible to the neighbors outside.
Yes, that's correct.
And that's gonna be lighted with those
Yeah.
types of lights?
It's a depressed, when you're standing on Norwood, you're not gonna see the retaining wall. Plus, you'll see the railing, which is, 3.5 feet high, but then there'll be landscape screen in front of that, so.
And I know this was probably reviewed by the fire chief, but my fire hat's coming out. The fire department connection for the field house used to be on the building. I'm not sure if it still is. Is that being moved to the street? Or did
Yes,
they
it
move
is.
to
In
the-
fact, we met with the fire department, and they suggested, because we are having a hot box there.
Right.
We're gonna screen that, but let's bring they're the ones who suggested bring the fire department connection out to the curb.
Beautiful. And then just a question about the new parking arrangement here. I know it might be difficult, but is there a way to, is there an aisle, there's an island between the in and out?
Yes.
Is there gonna be like planting to kind of shade or prevent the neighbors from seeing down there and not interfere with pulling out of the driveways?
Yes, that's correct. We have a landscaping plan that addresses that from last approval.
Any other questions from the board? Questions from the public? Not time to tell us what you think, but time to tell us if you have questions. I see none, so we would
Joe,
move.
I'm sorry.
Oh,
I had
one
one more
more.
question. And maybe this is just the way the drawing was done, but in the southeast corner on the proposed site plan is kind of squared off as opposed to the approved site plan where it's rounded. Is that just a drawing mistake, or is there actually more square footage included in there because it's squared off now?
Let me understand where you're talking.
The southeast corner of the
Yeah,
building,
Good catch.
southeast corner. where
Oh,
the-
you're right. No, that square footage modification is included in the calculation, and you're right. That was originally, the concept plan was to have that a rounded corner, and it's been squared off.
Thanks.
Okay. I guess you can move to your next witness.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to call Peter Bachman, architect.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
State your full name for the record, spell your last name.
Sure. Peter Bachman, B-A-C-H-M-A. I'm a licensed architect. I've been working as a licensed architect for more than 30 years. I am a principal emeritus at JCJ Architecture. I have appeared before numerous public boards, including your board, last year, representing this project.
And your license is in,
Licenses in New Jersey, Connecticut, New York, Massachusetts, Nevada,
in good standing.
in good standing.
Okay. Any questions from the board? If not, we accept your credentials and turn you over to your attorney.
Thank you. And what we're going to show you is built around the set that you have dated March 1st, but it has some additional drawings in it. I have a thumb drive here that I can give to Ms. Sula, so we can, or we can bring that, we can email it to you.
So that would be the next exhibit, and then we could-
A3.
Thank you.
Great, thank you very much.
So Peter, you've heard discussion from an engineering perspective, in terms of any changes, and we could do the same from an architectural perspective.
Yeah, exactly. So the drawing that's on the screen shows above the condition that was approved last year, where in the notch of the building, and Larry's going to show you with his cursor where the dance studio was. And you can see that it's up on columns, and it's been referred variously to an overhang or a cantilever. So that dance studio was raised up one story with an entrance to the building immediately under it. The drawing below shows that dance studio brought down to the ground floor. The thing that's important is that this is the only exterior change that we're talking about to the building itself. And what you can see on top of that, the roof of the dance studio is coincident with the roof, with the third floor level. And there is a white square on top of that, which is a terrace for folks to walk out onto, to observe the games that are happening in the fields immediately to the south. And the gray area on that same roof is the green roof that we were talking about, that Rob mentioned. That green roof represents a enlargement of the green roof that we had in the original approved drawings. The rest of what I have up here is going to be just a way of explaining why and what we've done to the building interior. So, thank you, Larry. So what you have here is the building section drawn as you all approved last year. And that shows a basement, which is approximately below that red line. And it shows the field house roof at the top of the drawing on the left side. And it shows the highest point of our new building as well. And you can see the call-outs, I imagine. What is important to understand is that that red line is a indication of the water table that we found. So it became a significant challenge for us to maintain that basement, and you've heard testimony that we have resolved to eliminate the basement. Thank you. So with that basement eliminated, what we were able to do was accommodate the athletic uses that had been in the basement at the first floor, and the theater that had been at the first and second floors into the building, into the floor levels above that. So in essence, what we've done is we've pushed those uses up higher in the building. But the word higher should not be misunderstood. The building itself is no higher than it was last year. It is coincident with the height of the existing field house. And there's been no sacrifice to program, which is of course important to the school. Yep, that's fine. So this is a drawing similar to the drawing that Rob showed, which was the pre-existing roof plan. And you can see that angle of the dance studio, which we know now was in this case up high, and now when Larry changes it, you'll see it's down lower. So this is a roof plan, and the thing that's important to understand is that there's been commentary about how we've come back to reduce the variances that we've been looking for, and the roof has been brought, more of the roof has been brought within the 35-foot height limit. Next. That is the basement as it was, and most of you have seen this drawing. Next. And it's a little silly to show you, but this is what it's like without a basement, obviously. Next, please. So this was the first floor, as you've seen it before, and it's worth just noting around the conversation that Rob led about the eastern wall, the eastern retaining wall reduction in height. You can see that the lobby, which is the gray area that looks somewhat like an hourglass, was all at one level. It was all at a level that was 5 feet below the existing field house level. Next, please. But now you can see in that same place where the lobby hourglass is down, you can see stairs and ramps that bring the whole eastern end of the lobby up 5 feet from the 342 elevation up to 347, which then allowed us to reduce the height of the retaining wall. But it's important also to see that on the lower half of the drawing, which is south, the pink dance studio is also now on the first floor. If you went up a level in our prior design work and your prior approval, that was the first floor of the dance studio. This was overhanging open space. Next one. And now it is just the upper level of a 2-story dance studio. It should be said that the dance studio was always 2 stories high, but now it goes from the first floor through to the second floor with a roof above that, and it was here on the second floor up to the 3rd floor. And now we're just going, we're going up through the 2nd floor, and that's the end of the dance studio. Next, please. In the prior application, in your prior approval, the dance studio, this is the upper level of the dance studio, which went from the 2nd to the 3rd floor. Next, please. Yep. There it is. So now, instead of that, at the 3rd floor level, there is a green roof and a roof terrace. And that roof terrace is accessible from the track and the pre-function area of the theater. So the only physical changes to the building are on the south side of the building, interior to the campus of the school. And next, please. We just show you these, which you've seen before, to just demonstrate that there are no physical changes to what might be considered the more public side of the building. Go ahead. And these are, yep. Yep.
So
Thank you.
Those 3 sides are unchanged from those included.
Yes. And that's what I have.
Okay. Questions from our professionals? Marie?
I do not think that I have any questions for this one.
Okay. Tom?
So, program-wise, essentially the spaces are the same, they've just been changed in terms of what level they're on. Are there any changes in terms of loss or gaining program spaces, or, you know, for instance, you've added a locker room, lost a locker room?
Yeah, no.
Okay, so it's the same as.
Yep, we were able to accomplish that within the envelope.
Okay. And just to be clear, the, I guess elevating the theater space technically increases the central height of the building, so it can go up to the third floor. It doesn't increase the total height, but it, you know, technically raises it to some degree, like in the middle of the building.
It doesn't raise the building higher than it was in the prior approval. What it does is it brings that roof level up inside a parapet that had been approved already.
Right, so perceived from the outside, you wouldn't know the difference,
Correct.
essentially. Okay. That's all I have, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Questions from the board?
I just have a very simple question. This is the entrance off the parking area, that's now a non-parking area, right? The entrance off of Norwood.
Yes, this is standing at the western end of the new entrance drive looking toward Norwood.
And this is more for my information.
Sure,
I mean,
sure,
yeah,
totally.
If I come in this front door, I have to go up steps to get to the field house. Or do I go down steps?
To
If
get
I come in on grade level,
into the front door, you come down a couple steps to 342.
okay?
And then once you're inside, to get up to the gym or up to the field house, you have a 5-foot rise.
Okay.
And there's a two-sided elevator that gets you there, and
So really, the new building is, I'm just trying to wrap 5 feet lower than the current field house.
yes.
I saw one photo back there with a rendering of, you know, this building next to one of the Tudor buildings. It was, yeah, just a little, and the Historic Preservation Committee did make a comment about how this building does not tie in with the neighborhood or the existing campus, the buildings on the existing campus. And I'm just wondering if you have any comments
Sure.
to address that.
Sure. This was talked about a lot the last time we were here in the room. And it was talked about in the neighbors' meetings. The idea, while it appears in these renderings that it is not Tudor in nature, the idea is to use colors and materials that tie to it, while acknowledging that this is a building that's being built in the 2000s, right? So the surrounds for all of those arcades are in a dark wood. The arcade itself, I'm using a colloquial word, but it's is very much structured like the porch and arcade on the Maybe House to the right of this view. The stones are similar in color and hue. So the idea is to not be a literal Tudor building, but to take the materials so that that recollects the style of this building. Now, every building on campus is not a Tudor building, right?
Yeah, I mean, I live right in the neighborhood. I walk by, around the school every single day. So it just, it is a sort of a stark change to the look of the neighborhood is, I guess, the one observation. I mean, the building itself, when you just see the building, is wow, like it's super cool, modern building. But then when, you know, I don't see it in the context of all the other buildings, but just.
Is that the view from the interior?
That's the view from interior of campus, that's right.
If you had to count the number of different architectural styles on campus, what would you say that is? 5, 6?
It's, plenty. I wouldn't care to enumerate, but yeah,
More than 2?
more than 2.
For sure.
I think the elementary's
Any-
yellow vinyl, isn't it, or what it was? At one time, the elementary was yellow vinyl, or yellow paint, I forget.
I'm not familiar with that.
Not vinyl.
That wasn't your design.
That wasn't, we don't do yellow vinyl.
And as I recall, we did have a conversation about if this were to be a Tudor building, what the roof height would have to be for it to be, come on, what's the word? You know,
For it to work.
Architecturally appropriate?
well, I was thinking more,
With the roof lines and everything.
yeah,
that
so,
you need
so,
for the-
so, so
yeah.
dimensional, thank you. So
Right.
that would work, and
Yeah.
you'd be way, way up there.
That's exactly right. I recall that conversation. And the idea was that if we were to get the amount of program, to your point, into a building that was Tudor, we'd have to have a pitched roof, and it would far exceed the allowable heights of, on campus.
Any more questions from the board? Questions from the public? Seeing none, thank you. Do you have additional witnesses?
Mr. Chairman, I do have Paul Phillips with us if the board wants to hear planning testimony, but to the extent, again, that no new variances are being created, and we are, in fact, as you heard, improving on a number of the variance conditions that was granted, we leave that to you.
As not all of us heard it, does anybody wish to hear that additional testimony? I'm seeing a lot of shaking heads, so I guess we can stand on that.
I'd just like to, once again, thank you all for coming out an extra evening at the exorbitant pay level that they have established here in Summit for your service. And let you know how we continue to be very excited about this substantial
Okay,
improvement.
we're not quite there yet. At this
Well,
point
I
now,
was gonna beg for an approval at the end, so, of my comments.
but we're not there yet. At this point, it's now appropriate for the public to come forward and tell us what they think of this, if there's anyone who wishes to be heard on that. All those folks who came out. Seeing none? Now we'll take your final state.
Joe, before we go, can I ask if the neighborhood liaison?
If she chose
Am I-
to
if
come
chose
out, she
not-
could. She's
I
chosen
just got
not
a simple,
to.
very simple question for you. When you were appointed and met with the school, were you satisfied with what their proposals were, to an extent?
Just so I can be clear, you're an employee of the school. She is the
Oh,
liaison to the
oh, okay,
neighbor.
I'm sorry,
No, that's
okay.
confusing.
Okay, so do we have,
Never mind.
do we
Strike
have
that from the question.
is
I
there
thought
a,
you were the
com-
neighborhood liaison.
okay, is there a corresponding representative of the public?
I can
And
speak
that's you?
because
No, to some degree,
Okay, can you
come up.
come up here and use a microphone so we can hear you?
I was involved a little bit in the, I was not at the neighborhood meeting, but I'm aware of the neighborhood dynamics, both from the testimony in the first and through discussions with my client. They maintain a contact list of neighbors, and they regularly send out information to the neighbors. I don't know if that answers your questions, and if you want the
It's
head of...
not the way I understood this to happen. I understood it to happen the other way around, that they were going to be in contact with you.
Okay. Would you like to hear from the head of school?
I would.
Okay.
And this is
Do
testimony.
you swear or affirm testimony about to give this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Kindly state your full name for the record.
Jennifer Galambos. Do we spell it?
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Galambos.
Thank you.
Okay, if you can,
We're good to go.
I
Yep.
identified you as the head of school at Kent Place School. Is that accurate?
That is accurate.
Okay. The chairman has a question.
well, I think I'm just trying to find out where we stand with this group, and if the liaison is from the school, I'm trying to find out how involved the public has been as they were in the past.
When Vicki Brown was identified as the liaison, we met with one of the neighbors, BJ Kogan, who has been often an involved neighbor, and then since then alerted them when any refurbishments would happen to the school. We notify whenever there's going to be additional car traffic. And last week, when we met with the neighbors, 5 neighbors came and including BJ, who said at the meeting that she felt that the school had been tremendously communicative with the neighbors and felt that, that really there were very, very few changes, and that she felt that we were on a great trajectory in our neighborly relationship.
That helps a lot. Anybody else have?
I do, was there any discussion about the parking on Norwood, just above the athletic field between Crescent and, I guess that's DeForest and Kent Place?
No.
I'll leave it at that.
Any other questions on the board?
No.
Okay, thank you so much. Any other public comments, questions? If not, I turn it back to you for any closing remarks.
We respectfully request approval of the application.
Okay. Conditions.
I'm going to rely on the conditions that we had in the resolution the last time. I don't know what they are, but we do. And we use them.
We have the resolution
Yeah, we do,
here.
right?
Everybody has a copy of
The
it.
only additional condition I'm going to implore Andy to add is that by activating this new approval, the applicant is agreeing that the prior approval will expire in exchange for the new approval. So they're not, this is not the case that I'm worried about. There is some other case that'll be down the line where a developer may have a first approval and a second approval, and they're left with the ability to decide if they want sausage or pepperoni, and we don't want that. That's not good planning and zoning. But I'm gonna do it for, mostly for practice purposes, that they're going to give up the prior approval in exchange for this approval.
We understand that.
Is that acceptable?
It is acceptable.
Okay.
So otherwise, you're good to go.
May I ask
I'm
a question?
assuming that the other item is also the acceptance of the engineer's letter for this application. as
Yeah,
well
we'll
as-
do that.
Yeah.
We'll do that.
Any-
Questions?
Yeah,
Questions?
so I'm looking at page 7 of 10, I guess, on the conditions. I don't know. That's, I don't know how that's page 7 in this whole big thick packet.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah. Somebody did a good job.
Yeah.
You're paying by the pound.
It gives applicant shall be bound by the exhibits, applicant shall provide all required performance bond.
That'll be the same, those
they'll
are,
all the way
by the way,
through?
those are our standard,
Okay,
and they're in every resolution, so, but in this instance, we mean the exhibits from the prior hearing as well as the exhibits here, because they've incorporated them already by reference to explain their proposal.
okay, maybe I'm looking at the wrong page.
No, they sounded
Official, huh?
right to me, yeah.
Good. Except they
Okay.
should remove the basement one because it doesn't apply anymore.
What was the, well, then Andy will pick up on
Okay.
that and take that, he'll extend that. I'm sorry I missed it.
That's okay.
I did this for years, and I was always very careful to mark down every single condition as it flowed through. This case just didn't require it.
Is there a community member who is going to be the neighborhood liaison? Is that person BJ that you referenced? I mean, is that something that, should they have to name a neighborhood liaison, a lead
What-
person, or no?
My suggestion is we're certainly open if the neighbors want to do that. Otherwise, we'll continue to communicate broadly the neighborhood.
As long as they're keeping the list, they're going to be communicating with everybody. So.
And neighborhoods wax and wane in that regard anyway.
Yep.
You know, BJ may not live there forever, and somebody else may not want to step up.
Right.
Every time somebody moves from
Well,
one
it's
apartment to another building,
same as
somebody
this.
moves
Okay. All right, how many votes are required for this?
I don't know, 5.
But
Thank you.
I've been just told it's a use variance, so.
yeah.
Yep. But I always make the attorney tell us.
All right, you're in
Sorry.
the clear now. You've been told.
Thank you. Who would like to begin deliberations?
Kick it off.
Paul, you're all over here by yourself. Do I let you start?
Why don't you let somebody else?
Okay, we'll let
It's
someone else.
not-
Who
wasn't
wants,
it-
who wants to start?
Jay's
okay,
chomping
right?
at the bit.
No, I was
Jay,
going to
you're
defer to Claire, but no, I'm happy to kick it off. I think the everything that's being asked for is a reduction of what was already previously approved. To me, this is a clear-cut case that they're taking what field conditions and hardship and modifying in the good, reducing some of the key points that that we were testified ad nauseum and questions with community. And I look forward to this getting resolved and built.
And all I can add is I think, that some of the outside ramps and walkways, straightening them or leveling them out is in fact an improvement for the campus. And I guess I tend to be sensitive for people who need ADA compliant building to feel othered by it, and I think this makes everybody feel like they're literally on the same level. So I can certainly approve this.
Don? you have
I
anything?
mean, wasn't privy to the first meeting, but I tried to watch some of the video and read. Well, let's move on. I don't see any downside to this. I see nothing but upside. I was a little concerned about the continuity of the Tudor style throughout the complex, or campus, I should say, but I thought about it a little bit deeper, and I said, well, maybe Kent Place is trying to move into the modern era. So this might be the best first step. I was somewhat familiar with the building from my previous employment, and I think it's an improvement, and I can wholeheartedly support this.
Anybody else?
Sure.
Okay.
I agree with everyone on this side. They've taken an incredibly complex site, an incredibly complex program, and made the best of it. And I don't think we could ask for anything more than that. The slight reductions in the variances is just a bonus to a project that we already approved. So I'm more than happy to approve this one as well.
The only thing I would add to this is that when they discovered a water table issue, that affects the whole neighborhood and all of the community that would have issues with any kind of water. It's also some safety issues that they've addressed from what we have looked at. So, and the whole thing is to have safety for students, safety for staff, and safety for the neighborhood. And with the group that's working with them from the school, and when I hear some of the names that have been brought up of being the neighborhood that's working on it, I know that they're in good hands and things like that from the people we know. So I have nothing but commendations for all of you who put the work into making this happen, and would be happy to accept a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Nelson, may we have a roll call vote, please?
Sure. Vice Chairman Loiketz?
Yes.
Mr. Nelson?
Yes.
Ms. Zahn?
Yes.
Ms. Toth?
Yes.
Mr. Feskins?
Yes.
Mr. Chanchuli?
Yes.
Chairman Steiner?
Yes.
The motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations.
Really appreciate it. I hope you all have a good week. Summer.
We have, I think, one item of additional business that Ms. Sulios would like to get done, because it's 7 pages.
Getting nods.
Okay, so we're going to look at the minutes from June 3rd, 2024. I would like to get a vote on that. We would just exclude members who were excused that evening, which were Mr. Yugo, Mr. Nelson, thank you so much, Ms. Chifo, and Ms. Zahn.
Okay.
Thoughts on approving the minutes?
Move to approve?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Great, the motion carries.
Okay, we meet again in a week. The 18th.
3 weeks in a row.
On the 18th. Do we?
Tuesday.
Okay,
Yes.
do we get extra pay for this? Do we
You
get
get
one
a-
joke from Dennis?
Extra gratitude.
You know about Sylvester Stallone?
Tell
He's
us.
he's on his third marriage. The first marriage was Rocky. The second marriage, that was Rocky too.
That was a good
But I'm fine.
Don't quit your day job.
Yeah, that's right. Don't attend to
Still
it.
got it, sir,
That's it.
still got it.
I wish you were on TV so they could turn you on.